Good evening and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 360, and I'm hopefully going to finish the story of Koji the monk. Enzo had awakened after lying in his bunk a long time, and he went to the mirror and looked at himself in the mirror and saw that he was a person again, marveling at his hands, but seeing that he was sweaty and wasn't really feeling good. He walked up the stairs and out onto the deck, and in the middle of the ship, all of the whales were being processed. Huge slabs of purple meat on the decks, huge spear-like, sword-like knives cutting up the whales, blubber hanging from hooks. And there on the deck were 3 sperm whales, a bull, a cow, or a female, a male, a female, and an adolescent. And Koji knew that that big bull whale had once, not so very long ago, been him. He refused to go back to his position at the gun, as manning the gun on the boat. And some words came back to him that his mother had been sharing with him. And the words were that they were from the Buddha, that the greatest teachings of the Buddha were bestowed upon the Nagas. The Nagas were the serpents of the water, of the rivers, the lakes, the streams, the oceans. And when Enzo had been a whale, he remembered feeling like a Naga as he went sailing through the water. He thought now about that, how the wisest creatures were perhaps those living in the depths of the sea, or perhaps those whales that he'd been hunting for so many years of his life. Hundreds he had killed. And in his mind's eye, he saw all these hundreds of whales that he'd killed swimming before him, bestowing their gifts of knowledge on him even though he had killed them. As they swam in this ocean, they spouted red blood. Koji repented for what he had done. He went to his room. He stayed to himself really the rest of the trip. But as they were nearing port, he appeared back on deck with a shaved head. When the boat arrived to port, he took his wages, gathered his things, and made his way to a Buddhist monastery that overlooked the ocean. Well, when the monks that were there were not many, but when the monks that were there saw him, they kind of rolled their eyes a little bit. So he was clearly in a seaman's clothing, even though he had a shaved head. But Enzo, he went and met with Abbot. And after a short time, he appeared from meeting with the abbot, clothed in the black robes of a Buddhist monk. Now, the abbot gave him a new name. The name was Koji, and this name was once bestowed upon a monk who had had the dream, so it seemed, of being a fish. And when he awakened, there were signs that the dream had not just been a dream, but it had actually happened. So now Enzo was Koji, and he studied and practiced his meditation under the tutelage of the abbot. And some years passed. When he passed, Koji became the abbot. Now each abbot had sort of, how can I say this? Let me say that Koji had taken up an art, carving out of wood. And on a couple of large cedar logs that he had found washing up on the shore below the monastery, he carved some figures, the Bodhisattva. Now, usually the Bodhisattva would be riding on a lion or an elephant, but Koji carved these Bodhisattvas riding whales, one a blue whale and the other a sperm whale with its mouth open. And though they were not carved to perfection, they were beautifully done and reflected this strong portrayal of the wisdom that Koji had gained from his experience with the whales. Now, it's said that many of his fellow sailors came to see him. They too struggled with the killing, with the jobs that they had. And after speaking with Koji, many of them left their positions on the whaling vessels and chose lives that were simpler and were in service rather than in destruction. Now, to this day, I guess you can go to this monastery. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but you might be able to look it up. And there you'll see the sculptures that Koji created, which are, I think, beloved by sailors, and I'm sure the whales as well. And that ends the story of Koji, the monk, the priest, the abbot, the sailor, the lover, as it turns out, of life. May we all be that. Okay, have a good rest of your day or night. Thanks for joining.